China has shown the world that you can produce in a non-democratic environment. We have to prove to the world that actually you can produce in a democratic environment. So what are the models that are required? The BJP views the institutional framework of India as belonging to them. And so they use it as a tool for building political power. All the parties of the India Alliance do not agree with the basic ideology of the RSS. Nobody hears or sees the work of a leader, and once it's done, they think they did it themselves, right? So to me, a leader is much more about connection, about empathy, about listening.
Dear Mr. Gandhi, dear Mr. Petroda, dear students, faculty, staff, and friends of the Hertie School, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to welcome Mr. Rahul Gandhi, leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, to the Hertie School this afternoon for an exchange with our students. To the Indians in the room, I actually suspect to everybody in the room, Mr. Gandhi needs no introduction. He's been a prominent voice in India's democratic and political life for over 2 decades and stands, like few others, for a secular and democratic India focused on social welfare and inclusive development. Rahul Gandhi was first elected to Lok Sabha in 2004 and has served in multiple terms as Member of Parliament for the Indian National Congress, representing constituencies in Uttar Pradesh. He's held prominent roles within his party, including General Secretary, Vice President, and President of the Indian National Congress, contributing significantly to its organizational and ideological direction. He currently serves as the leader of the opposition in the Lok Sabha, where he plays a vital role in parliamentary debates and democratic accountability. Throughout his public service, he has consistently emphasized social justice, economic inclusion, and the strengthening of democratic institutions. In India, that is true to its constitution. This may not come as a surprise given your family history, but it is worth mentioning in current times where politicians are tempted to redesign political institutions for their own benefit. Trained in different institutions in the United States and at the University of Cambridge, Rahul Gandhi has worked in the private sector in India and the United Kingdom before entering politics. Now, India, we know, is a big and diverse country, and few can claim to know all parts of it well. Yet I would venture to say that you are one of them because you have literally walked across the country by foot, south to north and east to west, in 2 Unite India marches between 2022 and 2024. When you started the first march on the 7th of September 2022, I suspect few believed that you would not see it through to the end. But you walked 3,570 kilometers through 12 states, speaking with thousands of people along the route over a 5-month period. And since you've then gained some practice and you had your walking shoes on, you achieved twice that distance in half of the time, 6,700 kilometers, from January to just March 2024, visiting over 15 states during the second Bharat Jodho Yatra. We are very eager to hear your insights from this unprecedented effort to connect with citizens at the grassroots level. As a university that focuses on good governance, at the Hertie School, we strongly believe in the power of ideas grounded in practice and shared through conversation. Our graduate programs aim to create an environment of learning where theory and practice meet and where we cross boundaries between disciplines and countries. With a student and alumni body representing more than 80 countries, we strive to foster a community in which everybody's insights contribute to the classroom and the broader university experience. The Hertie School is proud to have a vibrant Indian community. Can I hear them? And a strong network of Indian partners developed under the leadership of our managing director, Axel Beisch, since 2018. Let me seize this opportunity to thank both Axel Beisch and our India representative, Nitish Sikh, for all their work. Our Indian student community is an integral part of our programs, and to date we count approximately 250 Indian students and alumni. One of these alumni, Achyut Shankar, of our Executive Master of Public Affairs 2022 cohort, deserves a special thank you. Together with his classmates, Diogo C. Lima and Mihai Jurka, he founded the startup Cities Together and was instrumental in making the connection with Rahul Gandhi and his team that allowed us to program today's event. Let me also thank Michelle Patrick, who I've just seen, for all her support for the day. In the spirit of connecting and learning, and of recognizing that listening is a form of leadership in a political world where the greatest threats are growing divisions, please join me in giving a warm round of applause to our distinguished guest speaker, Mr. Rahul Gandhi.
Dr. Cornelia Wall, Dr. Axel Besch, and students and faculty, thank you for having me here. It's an honor to come here and talk to you. I'm going to speak for about 5-7 minutes just to lay the foundations, and then we'll carry on with question and answers. I think we're in the middle of a transition, a social, economic, political transition that is taking place. At least in India, we benefited greatly from the hegemony of the United States. From the 1990s till about 2010, 2014, we had tremendous advantages because America was the lone superpower. We built a relationship with them, we built a partnership with them. And whether it's Europe or it was us, we lived in a unipolar world where, sure, America had its shortcomings, America made its mistakes, but America defined the rules, America defined the structure. And for the first time, that hegemony is being challenged. And it's being challenged effectively. So what we are seeing is a dramatic reduction in American power. And the challenge that is coming to American power is coming across the spectrum. It is coming militarily. You can see it in Ukraine. You can see it in the Middle East. It's coming economically, financially. There is a challenge being posed on the US dollar, the financial system. And it's pretty clear that the challenges are not to be wished away. At the same time, the United States is struggling internally and almost walking away from its earlier position. And that is really where we're sitting right now. Superpowers are built on energy transitions. Okay, so when you change the way you move, when you change the energy system that you use, that's when superpowers arise. So if you look at the British, they were essentially a coal and a steam engine superpower. There was a transition to petrol and the internal combustion engine. The Americans dominated that. And now we are transitioning to the electric motor, to the battery, and the Chinese are trying to dominate that. In fact, they are dominating that. And it was very interesting for me to see. I went to the BMW factory yesterday, and I could see that. I could see that BMW as a company was being torn by these two different types of mobility. The past of BMW is in the internal combustion engine. Their entire plant is designed for the internal combustion engine, and then they are now trying to reshape themselves to build electric cars, build electric motors, etc. And you can see that that is just literally tearing the factory apart. And that is happening in a lot of industries. So really, that's the first question. Who is going to succeed in this transition? How are we going to succeed in this transition? The second big question, which is hurting our politics, is that the West, and to an extent India, have handed over production to the Chinese. So if you looked at the world in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you found that America dominated production. And then later, Germany, Italy, Japan, Korea dominated production. Today, China dominates production. And what that means is that it is very difficult to give large numbers of people employment. You cannot, country like India, country the scale of India, even country like the United States, even a country like Germany cannot give its people employment based on services. You have to have a production economy, you have to have manufacturing, and we have handed all that to the Chinese. So the next big question is, in this transition, how do democracies produce? China has shown the world that you can produce in a non-democratic environment. We have to prove to the world that actually you can produce in a democratic environment. So what are the models that are required? How do you think about production in a democratic environment? And what are the type of partnerships that India, the United States, and Europe can create to produce in a democratic environment? My view is that it will become very difficult for democracy to sustain itself if we are not able to produce. Because you will simply not be able to give the requisite amount of jobs that you need to create a balanced system. So I think huge part of the turbulence that we are seeing in Europe, in India, and in the United States, the polarization of the politics is because we're not able to give our people jobs. And that's happening because we have basically said, China, you produce for the world. You know, look around you, you'll see that pretty much everything that you're using is made in China. And that, at least for a country like India, is a problem. We have the capability to produce, we have the population to produce, we have the cost structure to produce, but we've just not done it. And so that's really for us the challenge. And for me, any partnership that we build with the United States or we build with Europe has to include the idea of production in a democratic environment. So I'll stop there. I look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this thought on the geoeconomic challenges of our times. We can host questions. I don't have an opening question because I actually suspect there is a lot in the room, unless I see no hands, in which case I can fill in questions. But don't be shy. We will maybe collect two to start with. You were first. So there's a microphone coming around, and then we'll move over here second. So first here on the left. Please present yourself and ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gandhi. In fact, just before coming to Hertie, my last assignment was working with the Congress, and it was the Karnataka elections, which the Congress did turn around and emerged victorious. Why do you think you've not been able to replicate that in any of the other states? That is the first question. Second question, I would just keep it very short. If you come to power, how would you create jobs? It's the thing on everybody of our minds.
So there are, I mean, we have been able to replicate it. We've won election in Telangana. We've won election in Himachal Pradesh. We've been raising issues as far as the fairness of elections in India is concerned. I've done press conferences where we have clearly shown, without shadow of a doubt, that we won the Haryana election, that we actually don't feel that the Maharashtra election was fair. There is a full-scale assault taking place on the institutional framework of our country. We asked direct questions to the Election Commission. I mean, I don't know if you've seen that press conference. Brazilian woman is voting in Haryana. I mean, is on the voting list 22 times in Haryana. One woman is voting 200 times in one polling booth. And when we're asking these questions to the Election Commission, we're not getting a response. So that's one aspect of it, that we fundamentally believe that there is a problem with the electoral machinery in India. Second thing is that there is a wholesale capture of our institutional framework. When you look at our intelligence agencies, you look at the CBI, you look at the ED, they've been weaponized. Look at the number of cases that the ED and the CBI have against BJP people. You'll find the answer 0, right? And look at the number of cases they have against people who oppose them, and you'll find that pretty much most of them are political cases. And so there is a weaponization of the institutional framework. There's a capture of the institutional framework. If you're a large businessman and you try to support the Congress party, you're threatened. You're the ED, the CBI, these people land up. So there is an atmosphere in India where the institutions are not performing the role that they should be performing. From our perspective, Congress perspective, we help build the institutional framework. So we never viewed it as our own institutional framework. We viewed it as the institutional framework of the country. That's not how the BJP sees it. The BJP views the institutional framework of India as belonging to them. And so they use it as a tool for building political power. Look at the just look at the difference between how much money the BJP has and how much the opposition has. You'll see a ratio, 1:30. How does that happen? I mean, so there is an attack on the democratic system. Now, okay, so then you'll say to us, okay, so what? Well, as the opposition, we have to find ways to counter this. It's not good enough for us to say, there's a problem in the elections. We will deal with it. And we will create a method, a system of opposition resistance that will succeed, right? But we're not fighting the BJP. You have to understand that. We're fighting their capture of the Indian institutional structure, right? And this is not just me speaking. I mean, I travel around the country. This is what everybody says to me, right? The press conference that we did, it was actually information that we got from the ground from people saying, listen, look, this is what has happened, right? So that's where it comes, that as far as the elections are concerned. On the question of jobs, there is only one way that you can produce jobs at scale for a country like India, and that is manufacturing, right? And what we've done in India and what the BJP has done, they've completely disincentivized manufacturing. When they concentrate power into the hands of, 3 or 4 oligarchs, the Ambanis and Adanis of the world, these are not guys who are interested in manufacturing. If you look at what they do, they're trading companies, they're not producing companies, right? And essentially, most of them are selling Chinese product in India. So what we would do is, we would look at, in fact, some of the stuff that we are seeing in Germany, we would look at how to build up small and medium industry. We would look at how to create jobs in agriculture and jobs in the connection between agriculture and the rest of the economy, cold chain, food processing. And then we would look seriously at manufacturing. And we would realign our GST, for example, which today is completely anti-producer and pro-consumer. We would try and realign some of those structures. You take something like demonetization, right? Demonetization systematically destroyed our small and medium industry, just wiped them out. Because, in fact, demonetization was an attack on their cash flow. So we would look, we think there is a place for large business in India. And we think there is a place for the Ambanis and the Adanis. But we don't think that they should be the only players there, right? We think that there are many other players at all different levels, and those players should be supported. They should be supported financially, they should be supported technologically, they should be supported by governments. And it's not something that hasn't been done before. India has been successful in manufacturing. In fact, when we were in power, we were manufacturing was approximately 16.5, 17% of GDP. It's today 12. So we've had a decline in the last 10 years in our manufacturing ability. So that's what we do.
Let me get the mic back to the front row, and let's try to see if we can group. So one question per person, but do present yourself.
Yeah, thank you. It's on?
Yes.
Okay. Firstly, Mr. Gandhi, I'd like to thank you for having risen from the ashes. Yours is absolutely no small feat of resurgence. I'd also like to thank you and the Indian National Congress for being the only thing standing between India and a full-blown collapse into a totalitarian regime and an Orwellian reality. In the existing political miasma of disinformation and lies, and every institution once held sacrosanct, absolutely jeopardized and plundered, you've chosen to bring a certain truth and a certain basic humane dignity into the fight, into the war, actually. Where does this resilience actually come from? How do you keep walking? How do you keep coming back to this big, incredible idea of India that some of us think has been irredeemably lost? And how do we, who have our own struggles and lives to run, play an active role and support you in this journey of India's rebirth? I'm Aishwarya Sampath. I come from the Dravidian state of Tamil Nadu, which holds the uncontested position of acceding 0 seats to a certain someone who shall not be named. Thank you.
Look, there's...
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Essential question. If you can hold your answer, I'll add a second one, and then we can take two. So if you can put the mic down. I saw Druti up in the front. We'll stay here. Oh. And then we'll move back. I see everybody.
Okay, I'll just sit.
Yes, stand up. That's good. That's good.
Thank you. Thank you for your speech. And I'm also going to echo something that my other colleagues have shared. In your speech, you mentioned that democracies, that you want to show that democracies can, produce as much as China is right now. But when your democracy itself is under threat, what do you plan to do? We saw something happen last year with the India alliance, but I mean, there hasn't been as much of a rigor in bringing the left together, the political left at least, within India. What do you plan to do right now? How do you plan to encourage new young political leaders?
What's going on actually is a fight between two visions of India. And it's not me who's walking or me who's doing it. There are millions of people in India who have a completely different vision of India than the government of India, than the RSS. And this is not a new thing. This is not something that has started 10 years ago or 15 years ago. There have always been two visions of India. There has been, in Indian history, throughout Indian history, the democratic impulse, conversations between people, decisions through consensus, and there has also been the idea of a king, right? And essentially, that's the fight taking place. Are you going to be ruled by one person, by the whims of one person? Or are you going to be ruled by a conversation? And there are people on both sides of that equation. There are many people in India who feel actually we should have a strong leader and nobody should question him, and that's it. And let's not have all this discussion. It's a waste of time. And then there is the other side that says, listen, India is actually too complex, too diverse, speaks too many languages, has too many different ideas for one person to decide its future. And actually, India should be a conversation between its states. If you read our constitution, it says India is a union of states. Now, she's saying that she's Dravidian, she's Tamil. this is a particular vision of the world. It is a different vision than, say, the vision of the people in Uttar Pradesh. She speaks Tamil, her history is Tamil, her entire thought system is fundamentally different than, say, the people of Uttar Pradesh or the people of Bihar or the people of Nagaland. So what we are saying is she should have a voice. And we are saying that, in fact, as many different cultures, different ideas should have a voice. And we have shown since 1947 that we can actually do it, that we can actually have a conversation. It's messy. It's not, it doesn't look neat. It's messy. It sort of creates tension sometimes. People get irritated sometimes. But we've been pretty successful at doing it. Now there's a new model which says, actually, we don't want to have this conversation. We're going to decide everything. And we know better than what the people of India know. And that's where I have a problem. Because for me, India is its people. And there is nobody who knows better for what India needs than the people of India. On the India alliance thing, see, you tend to see the alliance building up when an election comes. Look at it slightly differently. All the parties of the India alliance do not agree with the basic ideology of the RSS. That's the point, right? And you can ask any of them. None of them will tell you that actually we believe in the ideological position of the RSS. So we are very much united on that question. But we have tactical contests that take place, and we will continue to have them. But you will see that when it comes to the opposition requiring unity, and you see it every day in Parliament, for example, we are very united, and we will contest the BJP on laws that we disagree with. It's a deeper battle now than simply elections. Now we are fighting a battle for an alternate vision of India. This is what the BJP is proposing, is essentially the elimination of the constitution, elimination of the idea of equality between states, elimination of the idea of equality between languages and religions, elimination of the idea of the central core of the constitution, which is that every individual should have the same value. So when for example, we see a BJP leader voting in Uttar Pradesh and then voting again in the Haryana election, what the BJP is saying is this guy is worth two people. Or when you have one woman who votes 200 times in a polling booth in Haryana, what the BJP is saying is this woman has 200 times the value of a normal Indian. That's our problem, right? So even when I talk about the attack on the voting system, the reason they're attacking the voting system is they fundamentally don't believe that every Indian is equal. In their mind, and I've spoken to them, I know them, I talk to them. In their mind, there is no way a Dalit person is the same as an upper caste person. They can't even compute that, right? And that's to me the real revolution in India in 1947. That we said that actually every language, every religion, every idea in India is equal. And if you think about it, without dissing the Europeans, no, seriously, sometimes they come to me and so they're struggling to build an economic union, okay? We built an economic union and a political union in 1947. And we've run it just fine. Right? So, India doesn't, Indian people do not appreciate what actually India has achieved. To have an economic and political union of 1.4 billion people, that's, imagine, what is it, 3 Europes? It's 3 Europes, right? 4 Europes almost now. So imagine 4 Europes, and we've gone and built an economic and political union based on the constitution. That's the scale of what India has done. And if you're going to have any conversation about democracy on the planet, you cannot ignore by far the largest and most complex democracy in the world. And that's why I say that democracy, Indian democracy, is actually a global public good. It's not just an Indian asset, it's a global asset. You imagine, when I'm talking about attack on the Indian democratic system, I don't say it, but it's actually an attack not just on the Indian democratic system, it's an attack on the global democratic system. Because if you were to remove India as a democracy, if you were to remove 1.5 billion people from the democratic side, that's a huge dent on global democracy. So that's why I say that it's very important for Indian people, especially, to ensure that they protect this really valuable resource.
Thank you, and I hear there's hope for the European Union. So the mic is in the front, but we will move all the way to the back afterwards. 2 questions in a row, maybe 3 actually, because I see that the room is full. Please present yourself and ask your question.
Hello, Rahul. I'm Sucharita. And what you are saying is very correct. My question to you is that your family has been, we really owe a lot as Indians to your family. From Nehru ji till your father, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And I don't say them late because I believe these people, they never go. They still stay till the human being are there. So my question to you is, so right now we face a problem of EVM. Because EVM is eroding away the very fabric of democracy. What you said is very correct. People are scared to vote because they know that they will not be getting what they are voting. So as a leader and a very good human being, will you be able to completely scrap this EVM and we go back to paper wallet?
Well, I've been saying it. I think most opposition people would agree with you. On the you owe my family. No, I don't see it like that. See, I think we just represent the voice of people. Whether it's my great grandfather or my grandmother, they just represented the voice of people, and because they represented the voice of people, they got love and affection from people, and they were able to do what they did. So actually, if anything is to be owed, it is to be owed to the people of India, not the other way around. Yeah, that's true, I mean, that's fine. That's true. But look, we cannot. There is a number of people in India who support Mr. Modi, and we cannot get away from that fact. But we do not. A lot of us do not agree with his ideology. We do not agree with the vision of India that he has. We think that the vision will fail. We think that the vision has tremendous problems, will create massive tension in India, will make Indian people fight with each other. So we will fight it, right? And it's a clash between 2 visions of India.
Thank you. Teja, present yourself and ask 1 question.
Hi, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you so much for this speech. I want to pivot a little bit away from the democracy questions that we've gotten till now, and I want to go back to your speech. You've talked a lot about production and how it's important to give jobs, but I want you to take a step forward and look at the environment of India. And the complex of environmental governance we've seen from the Modi government, from the Nicobar to the Aravallis recently, and with the intense amounts of air quality pollution in New Delhi, what you're saying adds a humongous amount to the air pollution and to the pollution, to the environmental production of India. And it's going to only make it worse. So I wanted to place your plans within the environmental capacities of India and what we can do. And also, I want you to contextualize your plans within Congress's current governance structure and what your plans are given India's environmental output.
This is the expression I hear from many people I meet, right? Every time someone says to me, listen, I don't have a job, right? They're expressing to me the idea that the state needs to figure out a way to give them a future, okay? There is no contradiction between producing and pollution. Fundamentally depends on the type of fuel you use, on the type of energy you use, and your strategy on how you are going to fuel that production, right? Also, there are all different types of production. There is agricultural production, there is handicrafts, there's a huge set of different types of activities that you can do and you can choose to do. You can choose to do those which are very polluting. You can choose to do those which are not that polluting. If you look at our pollution problem in our cities, right? A lot of these problems can actually be solved with correct government intervention. There's essentially Delhi is being polluted because of industry that is sitting right outside Delhi. You start to regulate that industry, you start to transform the way they work, you'll start improving the pollution in Delhi.
Thank you. Let's move to the left side of the room and stay somewhere in the back and then maybe move back to the front.
By the way, just as an aside, Germany produces, right? There's a lot of production taking place in Germany, but the air looks pretty clean to me. So, right? So this is the idea that if you produce, you have to, have pollution there. Yes, to an extent it's true, but there are many things that you can do to ensure that you're producing and damaging the environment less.
I'm not very good at grouping questions, but let's try again. One short question, present yourself, and then we'll take one from the very left end of my side.
Thank you for being here. I'm David. I come from a region that had a painful coal exit in Germany in the 70s. And you talk a lot about energy transition. So my question is, how do you navigate the dialogue around climate change? We have the historical responsibility that lies with Europe and the US, but that moral superiority stands vis-a-vis very practical considerations of we need to get places in terms of climate mitigation, right? So how do you navigate that conversation in a place where people have really different things at the top of their mind in terms of their income that's more important, and then you have all of these coal regions where those are the bedrocks of the income. So how do you navigate that conversation in your country?
Yes. For a country like India, it's not an easy conversation, but the difference between a country like Germany and India is that there's a huge amount of infrastructure that we are going to be building in the future. And you have already built most of your infrastructure, right? So we can view green energy as a strategic advantage. We can think about green energy as building a strategic advantage for us. And we can think about using green energy for all the infrastructure that we are going to build in the future, right? And we have scale. So a lot of, if we use green energy to build our infrastructure, we build other capabilities that we can give to other people, right? So I don't view the idea of energy transition as a non-strategic thing. You can actually gain a huge strategic advantage by making this transition fast, right? Look at what China has done in electric vehicles, okay? They have using a different form of mobility, they are now having a huge competitive advantage, right? I mean, you can see what the European and the auto industry is faced with, because they have decided to move, right? So for countries like ours, where we have a lot of infrastructure to build and we have large scale, we can actually do quite interesting things that transform the way energy is used.
Thank you. Over on this side.
Hello. Hi, I'm Nima. I'm a Hertie alumni, and I'm from your neighboring country, Nepal. So my question to you is how...
You've got a new government, we see.
Yeah. Interim government, and we are going into election soon. So my question...
How's that going?
So far, it's going good. We are at least in a good pace, but I don't know like how the future looks like. There are so many external actors playing around, so which we are...
Who are the external actors?
Like there are, especially like it's the Gen Z that they call, but even a lot of Gen Zs are divided.
Right.
So there are every podcast and every interview is coming from different Gen Z groups. So we are a bit concerned about that, but hopefully everything turns out well. So my question is also kind of revolving around that area, like in this day and age of algorithmic divided world and driven world, what advice do you want to give to emerging leaders who are more tempted towards adopting more populist way of strategy to mobilize their support and like campaigns? How can leaders can adopt more radical listening and then be more like kind to and empathetic towards each other rather than being divided? So that's my question.
What's your time frame? Yeah, what's your time? Like, what time frame are you thinking about? Like, are you thinking about a 3-year time frame? Or are you thinking about a 6-year time frame? Or are you thinking about a 20-year time frame? Because the answer would be different.
I would say long term.
Long term. Then, if you're not in a hurry, this is a problem. When a lot of guys come like this, and they don't actually understand, not you, but they don't actually understand what it takes to do politics. Okay? It's not a fun thing. It really isn't a fun thing. Okay? So, the short-term guys will come in and say, I want to do this. They'll identify a problem. Maybe they'll say, I want to be a member of parliament. And then they will go in and they will work on becoming a member of parliament. Right? So that's what I mean when I say short term. Now, that's a totally different idea. And you can do that. And a lot of people do that, right? That's somehow for me that wasn't interesting. So then there's another system. And the other system is you go into yourself and you say, okay, what is the thing that I will defend? No matter what happens. The one thing or the two things that I will defend. And then you defend those things, whatever it is. Now, what happens in that system is it looks like you're going nowhere for a long time. And people will say, this guy's crazy, normally. But after some time, you start to get traction. So it's like, you know how compounding works? You know how compounding works? It's like that. So when you start compounding, you can't really see anything. And then you're like, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. And then suddenly, the thing starts to move. So I had a thing in my mind when I was your age, which was that, can you actually do politics by being truthful? Like everybody told me you can't. Everybody says, listen, if you're truthful, forget it. And then I realized it's actually the people who are doing the short-term game who are thinking that. Because if you're playing the 5-year game or the 6-year game, then yes. You know, if you're truthful to somebody and, you know, he's going to decide whether you're MP or not, you're not becoming MP, right? But if you're thinking longer term, then the truthful stuff becomes gold. Then it really starts to work. So there are these two types of politicians. One who compounds trust. And it's quite fascinating what starts to happen when you do it seriously. It's actually mind-blowing, right? It takes a long time, and people think you're crazy. People really think this guy is nuts. But after some time, the thing starts to work. Like I'll go to restaurants, and people I don't know will say to me, we love you. Just like that, right? And I discovered this. I'm still answering your question, by the way. And I discovered this, which is that I used to start the thing as a politician, or maybe when you're doing public policy, you enter the room and you say, I know what has to be done. Right? And actually, that's completely the wrong thing. The best thing to do is when you enter a room with 5-7 other people, you say, I actually don't know what needs to be done, and I'm going to listen to what they think needs to be done. And so you move from this thing of talking to yourself and building a little theory of the world in your mind and then trying to run it, to suddenly going quiet and listening to what is this guy now going to say. And then suddenly you start to see that, wow, I had no idea the level of understanding this farmer has. No idea. I mean, like now, I go to a farmer, I just shut up. I don't even talk. Because he's a master of his trade. And anything I tell him about what he does is actually meaningless. So to me, it becomes, once you say, okay, listen, I'm going to go down the trust route, then the next automatic step has to be, I'm going to go down the listening route. Because if I'm going to build trust with Sam and I don't listen to him, that's not happening. So that, to me, if you're serious about politics, that's where the real players are playing. If you're not serious, then do the 5-year thing, 7-year thing, 10-year thing. Maybe you'll succeed, maybe you'll burn out, but you won't enjoy yourself.
Okay. Hi, Rahulji. My name is Gayatri Shezwar, and I come from the state of Maharashtra, which has a rich history of resistance and currently a lot of anger with the way the state politics has been butchered. But since we are talking about learning to listen in a noisy world, in this time of total ideological and institutional capture by the ruling government, are we already beyond the point of no return when it comes to listening in the context of democracy and democratic processes? And as my friend Aishwarya put it very well, a lot of us who do not recognize the country that we grew up in anymore, we feel like you're kind of the only thing that's standing in between, like that democracy that we knew and this really dystopian reality. So, well, no pressure. But my point is, everything seems like noise. Where is the hope?
No. See, in the beginning I said, look, we had a model that worked for us from 1990 to, I'd say, 2012, 13. What Prime Minister Modi and the BJP and the RSS have done is they've extended that model. So if you look at what they're doing, they have essentially taken the economic ideas of Manmohan Singh and taken them right to the extreme, right? where we wouldn't take them and we wouldn't allow them to go. But what one has to realize is that the model has collapsed. And the entire conversation that is taking place now, including this conversation, is about what does the next model of Indian growth look like? What does that basic architecture look like? I can tell you already that what Mr. Modi is trying to do economically reached the end of its possibilities about 4 to 5 years ago. It's jammed. It cannot go further. He's got a problem because he's tied himself to 2 or 3 people who are not going to let it reverse. Right? So even if he decides now that he wants to build a different type of model, he can't do it. He's stuck. Because he's invested too much in the Adanis and the Ambanis of this world. They know, they control him, right? So the real interesting thing for me is what does that new model look like? And what I alluded to here is that it has to have production, right? It has to have a production that occurs in a democratic environment. What he alluded, which broadly I agree with, is it has to have a vision for the environment. It has to have a vision for the weaker sections of society, but the more marginalized sections of society. But it has to create prosperity. It cannot just create prosperity for 10 businessmen or 50 businessmen or 100 businessmen. It won't work, right? So all the angst you're feeling is actually the collapse of a model. And the hope is, and in fact you people are going to help build it, the hope is, okay, so this is not working, what is the next idea? And by the way, don't think India hasn't gone through this. India has gone through this in a much bigger way before, right? If you imagine what we did in 1947, it was a much bigger transition than is taking place today. I'm not, devoid of hope. I'm actually quite excited about what this thing looks like 5 years, 10 years into the future. And I'm interested in understanding what the different stakeholders feel about it. Right? So I'm interested in understanding what students feel about where our education system should go. So you shouldn't, and you come from the state. From the state where the core of the resistance to the RSS idea comes. So you are right there, You're where the battlefield is.
So the mic is over here. We'll take one more and then 2 questions in the middle because we also have to watch time. Go ahead.
May I use my mic runner privileges to plug in a question of my own, if that's okay? Hello, Mr. Gandhi. Thank you for being here today. My name is Michelle. I'm an MPP student. A lot of us here have worked in the policy environment in India. And it's very frustrating when good research, policy analysis, strategies are in the system, but they're put on the back burner because they're not about issues that are electoral agenda issues, but still very important. Press freedom, women's representation in politics, LGBTQ rights, climate is one of them. So as future policymakers and as citizens, my question is, do we just have to make peace with the fact that these issues will forever be back burner issues, and perhaps if there is space in the agenda, they might feature?
No, you'd be surprised at the amount of room that exists in our system for non-central issues. But you have to know how to drive them, right? So for example, there are many such issues that can be driven very easily through parliament if you get the right set of people interested in the issue, right? You can't ignore the democratic process. So you can't say that, listen, peripheral issues are going to be the center. They never. But you can be sensitive to peripheral issues, and you can have a mindset where you say, okay, this is not a central issue, but we'll make it important. You know, for example, in an issue that comes to mind is the tiger. Non-central issue, right? But became a very important issue because of how you framed it, right? So framing is very important, right? How you think about putting it across, how you think about framing it, how you're positioning the issue, that is what allows peripheral issues to become central.
Hi, my name is Ace Chowdhury. My dad is an immigrant from India. My mom's parents are Pakistani, and she was born and raised in Bangladesh and also immigrated to the States. My question for you is maybe changing the tone a little bit, but my question is, India has a growing defense dependence on Israel, as they are the largest importer of Israeli weapons. Nearly 40% of Israeli surveillance technologies and arms are bought by India. I know you're saying superpowers are dwindling militarily, societally, and economically. How do you view the future risks of deepening this relationship with Israel while India seeks to position itself with autonomy as an independent global power?
No, we buy weapons.
Thank you.
We buy weapons from a number of people. Yes, we buy weapons from Israel. We buy weapons from the Russians. We buy weapons from the Americans. We buy them from the French. And in a complex environment, we have to defend ourselves. We are trying to become self-sufficient in that space. There's a long distance to go, but we can't get away from the fact that we need to buy weapons from the best possible supplier, right? We're not going to buy second-rate weapons. We're going to buy the best weapons that we need. But on the matter of Israel, I think what Hamas did was absolutely wrong. But I think what Israel has done to the people of Gaza is absolutely wrong as well. And I think the bombing of women and children simply should not happen. So I think that is something that I feel strongly about. And I think responsible people should think about that, should think about what has happened. You know.
Two final questions. Michelle has the mic. You have the mic, and then one bit more to the front. Somebody else has to grab it. If we can group them, if you hold your answer to the question, we have a little bit more time. So go ahead, please. Present yourself.
Thank you. Maximilian von La. I'm the co-founder of the Indo-German Young Leaders Forum, an NGO we founded 10 years ago to bring India and Germany more closely together. Basically, a very long-run initiative. So I connected closely to what you said. If you want proper results, they will be 10, 20, 30 years down the line. So my question for you is not political, but really targeting the leaders that we're all achieving or trying to be at some point. So is there, with all the experience you had in meeting leaders around the globe, is there any advice that you could give German young leaders learning from India or from Indian leadership experiences and the other way around? Thank you.
The visual representation of a leader. If I ask you, can you visually, imagine a leader with people? What you see is a guy walking in front and a whole bunch of people walking behind, right? Right? My visual representation is walking behind them. So I really liked a Taoist quote I read once, which I don't remember the exact quote, but basically it says that nobody hears or sees the work of a leader. And once it's done, they think they did it themselves. Right? So to me, a leader's much more about connection, about empathy, about listening, than about getting people to follow you. The following happens as a result of the listening and the empathy. And the following is almost a byproduct. So now this sounds esoteric and sounds as if it doesn't work. But it does. I do it all the time. I'll tell you, before I went walking, and actually I didn't walk 8,000 kilometers, it's wrong. I walked 4,000 kilometers from north to south, but then the one that went from east to west was a little bit of walking, but a lot of car. So you're giving me credit for something I didn't do. So I walked 4,000 from the southernmost tip to the northernmost tip. And I realized two things in that walk. The first one was that as a politician, I didn't even know how to listen to people. Like I didn't even begin to understand what it means to listen to people. Because I was always ready to, you're a politician, you want to tell people what you think. You already assume that I know better and I'm going to tell you what to think. This is the model. It's a model of all modern politicians. So the first thing I realized is actually I don't listen at all. And listening, by the way, includes listening is not talking to yourself while the other person is talking. You know what I mean? Where I'm listening to you and then I'm saying, yeah, okay, she's wearing a red shirt and all that. That's not listening. Listening is silence in your mind when the other person is talking. That you're looking and you're silent and there's nothing going on. And you're looking at what they're saying, you're looking at the way they're expressing themselves, you're looking at the tightness in their body, you're looking at that. So you're trying to make as deep a connection with the person as you possibly can. And you're giving them the stage, fully. And you're not trying to bounce around on the stage next to them. So that's the first thing. The second thing which completely blew my mind was we were walking on the yatra. And I saw this guy trying to come in. There was a huge crowd there. We used to walk in the morning, and there was a huge crowd, and this guy was trying to come in. And the cops were stopping him. So they stopped him. First, he tried to come in, they stopped him, they hit him. And I looked and I was like, I told the guy who was walking with me, he's trying to talk to us, go and try and get him inside, because it was a big crowd. Anyway, by the time he arrived there, the guy had gone. And then again, a few hours later, I saw him on this side, same thing, and he had gone. And this happened a couple of times. And then at the end, I said, listen, the moment you see that guy, please bring him here. I told my office guy. So the moment he saw him, he brought him. And when he brought him, that guy broke free of my office guy and came running. And then he started going like this to me. So I said, what? So he said, I know what you're doing. So I said, what am I doing? He says, no, I know what you're doing. So I said, what am I doing? And then he said in Hindi, नफरत के बाजार में मोहब्बत की दुकान खोल रहे हो. Now, do you understand what I just said? No. What he said is that in a supermarket of hatred, you're opening a shop of love. And that thing, I went and gave a speech after that. And I said, I said that line. And that line went like an earthquake. It just literally went like an earthquake across the country. And then everybody asks me, how did you think that thing up? And I'm like, I didn't think that thing up. Right? That thing came to me from the crowd. So the other thing is that intelligence lies in the crowd. And you got to go listen for it. Intelligence is something that is innate, it's there, and it talks to you. And then I realized that whole yatra, it was talking to me. Not as an individual. It was talking as an individual, but it was talking as a group. That statement that guy made was not an individual statement. It was a statement that was in the mind of thousands of people. He just expressed it. So then I started to notice that this crowd is talking to me. Not as an individual person, but as an organism. So those are the two learnings that completely transformed the way I think about this. And I think those are central to leadership. I'm sitting with this group of people. There's an individual intelligence in you. There's also a connected intelligence in you that comes with your particular experience. I have to pay attention to both.
So thank you for all these answers. I saw Mujahid Sheikh had his hand up, and I would love to give you a lightning round question if it's very short and it can be answered with one sentence. If not, I'll have you walk up. But if you can, go ahead with the very final question.
I'm going to be very quick. So thank you very much. I think we're all very impressed, and thank you for showing up today and giving us the opportunity to listen to you. I wish you taught the policy process course to our students instead of me. So maybe at some point that happens. And I don't say this often, but my dad was a rickshaw driver in India, so I've broken that socioeconomic barrier to be here in Germany today as a professor at this place. But there are many like me in India who are unable to do that, especially from the community I come from, which is, the Muslim minority in India. I want to know what your vision is for them going forward, because I haven't really heard of that today in your talk. So if in a sentence you can say that.
For me, every single Indian, regardless of religion, language, what his father does, should have the freedom to have a vision of his own life and should be able to express that vision and act on that vision. I don't separate people in quadrants of language, religion, in my mind. And I don't like the idea that anybody should be scared in India. This disturbs me. So when the minority community feels scared in India, or the Dalit community feels scared in India, or the tribal community feels scared in India, or a woman who's walking outside at nights feels scared in India, I don't like that. And so for me, that is something that needs to be worked on. And that is something, to me, that is a vision of India where there is harmony and everybody can express themselves. You have a particular religious predisposition, somebody else has another one, there's no conflict between them, right? If you go to the root of all religions, you'll find they're saying very similar things, right? So to me, I value harmony, I value connection, I value respect, and I think an India that gives its people, all its people, respect, connection, is the India that I would look forward to,
Now that's a closing word if I've ever heard one. So thank you very much, Mr. Gandhi.